All right, welcome back, and this is going to be part 2 of the Sony CDP-501ES. And when we left off the last time, I was in the waiting period of getting a replacement optical pickup from this, and we did receive a complete transport used from a CDP-101 from a guy up in Canada. And in the interest of time, I've already removed the optical pickup and put it in this machine, got it up and going. Replacing the part takes maybe 10 minutes. Everything is easily accessible underneath. But for me, the bulk of the 2 hours I spent after that was going through the alignment very meticulously, because I had screwed it all up when I didn't realize that I had caused a problem with the former optical pickup that was in this. So, not gonna make this a seriously long video, but what we're going to do is we're going to come back in. I'm going to touch on the alignment real quick, my thoughts on that. Then from that point, we're just going to do some quick testing with it. We'll do a final play test. Well, we'll do some quick testing. Then I'm going to show you the assembly I received from the guy in Canada. Then we'll do a quick final play test on it. So give me a minute to get set up for that, and we will get started with this. All right, coming back in now, and basically what I want to stress is a couple of things when it comes to doing any alignment on an old machine like this, because there is a potentiometer for everything, whether it's focus offset, tracking gain, tracking balance, just a slew of adjustments that can be done, and all it takes is for you to screw one of them up. Then all of a sudden you're going to get yourself into that loop where you think one thing is wrong, but you've got one thing out of adjustment that's causing you to think that that one thing is wrong. And so it took me a while to get this back to a point to where it would actually play a disc, and then from that point it took a little longer to tweak everything out to where the unit would actually play correctly and access tracks quickly and had excellent interchangeability between discs. And I have went through a slew of discs with this, making sure that this thing works the way it's supposed to. As far as the manual is concerned, this is what I'm going to say about this. It's a very comprehensive manual. Everything you need to know about the player is definitely here, as far as the adjustments of the machine and everything of that nature, but I'm going to stress this point. This service manual, as with any service manual, is always based on the fact that everything in the machine is operating 100% efficient. There's no issues with any of the parts. All of it's working good. All of it is, based on the fact that it's all new. It's all working well. This machine is 40 freaking years old, and so things have changed. Caps have changed in value a little bit, and all it takes is for it to change a little bit, and then all of a sudden the adjustment that is, laid out in the manual, all of a sudden it won't work the way that they say that it will. And so therefore you have to experiment. I found myself having to experiment a little bit. And the one thing that I do want to touch on is the focus offset adjustment. Focus offset, the way that they lay it out for you to do it here, they're saying that you're going to adjust RV406, hook your scope up, and you're going to adjust RV406 so that the scope reading is 0. And then from that point, they want you to hook it up again, and then they're going to have you adjust the same thing for the optimum waveform of the eye pattern. What I found most beneficial to myself was to do this in the opposite order. Get your best eye pattern adjusted and then tweak out 406 for 0 volts. because when I was doing it the other way around, I had interchangeability trouble. And so I'm not quite sure why that is. All I know is that when I flipped the process and did the best eye pattern first and then wound up with 0 volts at the last adjustment, then all of a sudden it worked the way it was supposed to. So perhaps the maximum eye pattern is not going to give you the best results. So the eye pattern I wound up with is this. This looks very good. They tell you in the service manual, as with almost any service manual on a CD player, you're looking for that diamond pattern, clearly distinguishable in the center of the waveform, and it is definitely there. You can see it with no trouble whatsoever. So my advice, if you find yourself in CD player hell and you are trying to adjust one of these or do an alignment on one of these, my advice is absolutely keep in mind that all of this is based on everything in the unit working 100% efficient and everything in the unit being new or practically new. But things change over time, and so therefore the adjustments may change. And so you may find yourself experimenting. So just keep in mind that the adjustments in here are subjective. So you may have to, spend a little time, extra time experimenting with it. But I did and got it all tweaked out, and it's all working pretty good. So I think what we'll do, let's get this disc out. My favorite disc is my alignment disc or test disc, the Denon Test CD. And this disc has 99 tracks on it. And if you have anything going on, you should definitely be able to spot it with this. It takes just a little longer to read the table of contents, but finally it gets to the point where it does, and then it'll stop and you'll be ready to roll. And so as we kind of make our way up, keeping in mind how quickly it locks onto tracks, the service manual says that if everything's done correctly, you should be able to access a track in 2 seconds. This does a little better than that. I don't even think it is 2 seconds. And if you just keep yourself going on up, no matter how far you push it, it will keep up with you or go even ahead of you sometimes, locking on to where it's supposed to be. And as far as fast skip, it does a real job with that too. Good job with that. And then on the way back down, the same deal. As fast as I can push the button, it will keep up with me as far as locating disc or locating songs on the disc. They also mentioned in the service manual about, I don't recall, I believe it's trekking. Let's look at this. It's this right here. Focus and tracking gain adjustment. One thing we'll pay attention to real quick here is it says a special servo analyzer is necessary in order to perform this adjustment exactly. However, the gain has a margin, so even if it is slightly off, there is no problem. Therefore, do not perform this adjustment. RV205 and RV301 are set in the positions shown below, which are basically in the middle between the minimum point and the center point of the potentiometer. And that is where I started them out, because I had already tweaked on them before I even looked at this. And so therefore, Once I got the new optical pickup in it, then all of a sudden I started having a little mechanical noise when it was searching for tracks, more noise than I thought was necessary. And they addressed that in here. And it's basically, where is it at here? More noise during 2-axis device operation. And that would mean both of the settings are too high. And even though it says that they have a margin and they can be slightly off, I didn't find that to be the case. I actually had to tweak mine out a little bit to get that noise reduced as it's accessing tracks. And so this thing has got a big old optical pickup assembly in it. This is it, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a few minutes on the next clip. But basically, this guy right here is clunky and it makes a lot of noise when it's moving. But there is also noise that this thing generates that what I thought was excessive. And so when I tweaked on those controls, I got them. They were still looking like they were about in the middle, but at the same time, once I tweaked them out a little bit, then all of a sudden that noise started to be reduced. And the speed of it accessing tracks actually increased. And that's what I wanted. I want this thing to be able to, no matter where I put it, I want this thing to be able to keep up with me as far as tracks is concerned. And so, one other thing, as far as burnt CDs, that burnt CD is a little bit on the older side. And it doesn't have any trouble at all with that. Locks right onto the signal. So, strangely enough, what is always listed in the manual, or what is listed in the manual sometimes, can't be taken to the letter when you have something this old. Things change, tolerances of components changes, values of components changes a little bit, and so it will affect the adjustment of it. So hopefully no one ever finds themselves in the situation I found myself in, which was basically self-inflicted. I caused the problems that I had by not taking the time to just look at the piece a little closer before I started messing with it. So what we're going to do here is I am going to get this bolted back up, screwed together, top cover put on, whatever. We're going to do a final play test on it. And then we're going to take a look at the transport that this came out of. This thing is unbelievable, something to behold for sure. So we'll have a look at that, and we'll have a look at the tray mechanism. The part that I received for this was the entire tray mechanism. And so we'll have a look at that, and then from that point, we'll be done with this. So give me a minute for that, I'll come back. All right, let's take a minute and have a look at this optical pickup and the transport that it came out of. And again, I consider myself pretty lucky that I was able to get this, and I got it at a great price too. It was, I think, about 60 bucks, maybe with shipping, and definitely got myself some extra parts in case I need a motor or something. But one of the things that I'm interested in knowing also is, if you remember, I repaired that gear in the tray assembly, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the gear that's in this one, but we're going to take it out and have a look. And there is not a crack. No, there is a crack in it. Let me see. No, there isn't. I don't see a crack in that. No, there is not a crack in that gear. So if I wanted to, I could put this gear on. No, there is no crack in that. There is nothing wrong with that gear, so I'll obviously be holding on to that just in case I have an issue. However, I felt it slide onto that motor shaft a little easy. So I guess it's all right. So yeah, no issue with that in case that modification I made to my own gear breaks. There's no problem with this one. So we're going to put that back. A little noisy, I probably don't have it aligned right. Also, wasn't a bad idea to have all these additional motors and parts in case something goes wrong with one that's in the unit that I have, because I plan on keeping that. But let me just give you kind of a rundown on this optical pickup and what happened to me and why I wound up needing a new one, or a different one anyway. So basically what happened was I had read that you can break this down and have a look at it to make sure that dirt hasn't worked its way down inside the beam splitter and in the mirror and stuff like that. And so this part right here, I don't believe I took that out, but here is the part that I did take apart. When I seen these two screws right here with the factory paint on it, I assumed as soon as I removed those, this would all come off as one piece. Well, as it turns out, there is an adjustment to that. And getting that out of adjustment, there was no way I was going to get it back in adjustment. I don't know how they did it at the factory. They probably had some kind of a, device they hooked it up to that helped them get it aligned, but there was no getting it back once I got it out of alignment. And I've since read that underneath here, and this does all come off as one complete piece, that this focus coil can develop problems. And so I'm still going to hang on to this in case I need it for, parts later on down the line. And one thing I was glad of is that factory paint on the laser output potentiometer. On the one that I received, that factory paint has never been touched. So nobody's had to tweak it up, or nobody had messed with it. Yeah, I lost my screw. me pause here and find my screw and I'll pick it back up. All right, located that. And I'm just going to kind of hang on to all of this because you never know when you might need a motor. And these parts would probably be compatible for other models that would be in this early generation. And that's pretty much it. Now we'll reinstall it back onto the sled mechanism. And this is interesting too, the way that this all kind of works and fits together is the rails and the brackets and everything that they use for this. And I have that in the wrong spot. Very mechanical, lots of moving pieces. Easy to take apart, easy to change motors. You take the bottom panel off the unit and you got access to everything you need to change with hardly any restriction. But the alignment is really where the problem's at. It's interesting how they did this. The way that this kind of works is, if I can show you here. This just kind of lays in here like this and kind of rotates around to where that bracket will lay in that custom groove cut in that rail. And when I was putting this back together in the one that I'm working on, I just took my time and kind of made sure I had everything the way it was supposed to be. Well, let's see here. Missing a screw again. All right, give me a second to locate that, and then we'll come. And that's it. And of course, there's a connecting board inside the unit for these two plugs, and then the focus coil plugs into here. And if you remember on the one that I did, that glue, I removed that glue off of it. And then this just slides back into place. And of course you can see the optics will move. No issue, there isn't really any special alignment here. Just when you lay this back on here with these rails, it just meshes. The two gears mesh together. The sliding gear and that round gear mesh together. But when you get ready to put it back on here, it's got an indentation in it and it just locks into place, and all you have to do is just put the screws in it. And there's 3 screws that hold it in. And that's it. And this will slide up, hit the rest switch, and away you'll go. And there's even an adjustment on this rest switch. I think I may have talked about that in the part 1, that in case your optical pickup assembly is not moving all the way back to the home position correctly, or not moving back far enough, you can adjust that out. There's a screw with a spring on it that moves that arm back and forth. So give yourself some more clearance. And just kind of flipping this over, pulling the tray out, and it is pretty much identical from what the 501. This came out of a CDP-101. There's a switch here that got broken off, and I'm not sure what that is. But again, just having the switches in case one of the switches were to go bad, having the disc stabilizer, having the spindle motor, all of these parts, man, such a great deal. And some cabling too. So that's pretty much it. The whole thing, just to get the one piece out. And if you've got a CD player that uses that KSS 100A, unless you find something like this, I got lucky and was able to get this for around 60 bucks or so. But if you can't find a used one, I know that supposedly there's a new one on eBay overseas for 150 bucks. But I wasn't willing to do that. I was willing to eat my own mistake, spend some money, and get that player back up in working condition because I plan on keeping it. But I don't like it enough to spend the price of the player, which was 50 bucks or so, and then another 150 for a part. So that's pretty much it as far as the complete mechanism assembly from a CDP-101, which apparently is compatible with CDP-508. So we'll go ahead and get the top cover back on the unit, and we're going to do a final play test. We're going to be done. All right, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video for the CDP-501ES compact disc player. Actually, I believe in the prior clip I referred to this as a CDP-508. That basically just shows what time of day it is, and I probably should have packed it in about an hour or so ago. I'm starting to get a little tired. But anyway, if you find yourself with a similar unit, this can give you some kind of a roadmap, you know, as far as what you'd be looking at mechanically if you need to change out the optical pickup, and the challenges you'll meet if you need to do any type of alignment work. In the first part of this video, I started it off playing some Robert Plant solo, and we're going to finish with the same thing. This is going to be from the Now and Zen record, and I can think of no other song that is befitting a beautiful piece of equipment as this than Ship of Fools. So thank you guys for hanging out.
Soft